Today we are here with Kate Kowalkoski, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her experience as a music educator. So go ahead.
All right. Hi, my name's Kate Kowalkoski. Sorry, that's my dog. I grew up in a city where we had magnet schools. And so I started playing violin at 5 because it was a requirement of the school I went to. I'm from a very non-musical family. And that's how the whole journey got started for me. When I was about teen, one of my former orchestra teachers called my home looking for my brother, who was a bassist. They're just looking for kids who could start doing private lessons for really young beginners. And while she had me on the phone, she's like, hey, we could use some violinists too. Would you like to? And I said, sure. And at that point, I never thought I was going to want to be a teacher. But so I was 15 years old, gave my very first private lesson. I was hooked. So I've been doing private lessons for a very long time. Sorry about that. And so I knew in high school that I wanted to be a music teacher. So I went and got my undergrad in 2005 and took a year between college and teaching because I had my daughter at that time. And so my first teaching role, I was actually just 0.3, and I was at a private school, and I stayed there for about 8 years. And that was an interesting experience being, first of all, I was a person, like a whole department of one, essentially. I did pre-K through 12th grade. And there was another strings teacher, but they had 4 different schools within this private school system. So she was at some of the buildings and I was at the other buildings. And so I really felt adrift for my first 8 years, but I didn't realize that till my position there was altered and it wasn't a good fit. So I went to a public school and got to teach with other strings teachers. And so that was just an amazing thing. I wouldn't want to go through that experience again of all that, but I learned a lot about myself. Once I got to surround myself with other people who were string specialists, because there's a huge difference between someone who has music experience and is teaching orchestra and someone who's an actual strings musician and is teaching orchestra. And so the last, I think 3 years, I've been team teaching with another string specialist between a couple of buildings, and it's just been phenomenal. If you have that opportunity, I would highly recommend it to not have to be the person who's leading it. That is a place that I was in for a long time as well. Not only just being that department of one, but
yes,
having to teach the people around me on, like, these aren't band instruments. We start them very different. We move at a very different pace. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't also want me though I did band growing up, and I'm licensed to teach it, you wouldn't want me in a band classroom. I wouldn't pick the correct literature. They'd be so bored with me. So yeah, I've been now teaching in the classroom. This will be my 17th year that I'm going into. And then teaching private lessons, still just a handful here and there. But that's kind of my experience of what I've been through.
Yeah, well, that's a really cool, experience going from, your past teaching situations to now, and kind of your inspiration from that first private lesson teaching experience when you were 15. Maybe tell us a little more about your team teaching experience with your other string specialist and how that's been for you.
So we team teach in kind of an odd way, because she's so I'm at one of the middle schools. I'll back up in a second. There are 5 secondary schools in our district, 3 middle schools and 2 high schools. So I'm one of the middle schools and both high schools. And then she's at the other 2 middle schools. And so we have our curriculum completely aligned. The lesson expectations, we use the same thing. We do modified Suzuki. We pick the music together. We really talk about what our kids need. And so we're never like repeating any songs. Every once in a while we get a song that's repeated, but everything that we have, sorry, I've got to send a voicemail. I don't know who's calling. But everything that we do anything that we do in the classroom, whether it's what we're doing for warm-ups or what our overall PLC goal is for the year, or any of the curriculum that we're doing, has two people's input on it. So I might pick a piece and be like, I think this is great. And my team teacher will look over it. She's like, this works wonderfully for my kids. Or she'll be like, I think this is a really cool piece, but there's another one that would fit our needs better this year. Or sometimes we just go, oh yeah, like it sounds neat, but I can already see the pitfalls. So I really feel like we've got a much stronger program having two people who are experts in this field contributing to everything that's going on. And then she also is great to work with as they come to me at the high school level. Like I can appropriately place the violins in violin 1 or violin 2, or there's a whole bunch of stuff I can do to support the kids as they get into the high school level that I wouldn't be able to do without having this person I'm working so closely with all the time.
That's amazing, because I know there's a lot of schools that are in similar situations where there's multiple different middle schools leading to these high schools, and they might not have that same situation where they have that closeness of, ability to be able to work together and kind of be on the same page for things. So that's really cool for your program to have that and have you two working together so closely to make sure that you can meet those goals that you've set and all of those things. So that's a really cool experience. So what inspires you, in your in your daily life at school, or what inspires you to keep doing music and keep teaching? And
so I'm in a really neat situation in that I teach 6th through 12th grade in my district, and we start our students in 6th grade on their orchestra instruments, which is pretty late, but I get to have these kids from knowing nothing to, helping them prepare for their college auditions. And so that's something that is super inspiring to me, is to look at where my seniors who just graduated, like where they're headed off to, and to remember what they were like when they were tiny little 6th graders and, could barely hold their instruments and sounded like, dying cats. And so that's where I get a ton of inspiration from, is just, knowing that I'm such a big part of their lives, and that I could set them up for a failure, or I could set them up for success. And so I try to really keep that in mind, even with the kids that are driving me nuts. I'm like, they're young, they're going to be going somewhere. And that I can be that constant in their life as well. Like I don't know if you remember going from middle school to high school, but that's quite terrifying. So when you have an adult in that building that you already know, that, that really makes a difference.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I love that. Do you have any tips for what helped you get to where you are, and what helps you, have a successful program?
So, I mean, it sounds like cliche, but never stop learning. Like, don't get comfortable. I make it a point to put myself into situations every year where I'm having to push myself and learn and grow. Like I try not to, I have these kids 7 years. I try to, unless they ask me, they will never play the same song twice. Because you can fall into a rut with repertoire. You can, there's so much more stuff that's coming out for orchestra as well. It used to be kind of like glossed over, and, we'd get the cool songs like 3 years past their prime. I would also say go and get into other people's classrooms and watch masters teach. And it doesn't have to be another music teacher. Go in and go to the biology room and go to the English room and see what these other teachers are doing, and then take their ideas and they fit in what we do. But, like, try to form some of those connections between the different departments. Try to understand as well what the kids are going through in other classrooms. I know that, like, when I go and watch another classroom, sometimes I'm really floored at like how much time the kids spend like sitting and not having the ability to like work together. And so I sometimes will give just social time in my classroom. I will do things where we, march around the room and play. And just, make it so their day isn't the same from beginning to end.
Yes.
Not sitting in one chair the whole time. And keep playing yourself. Like, find a community orchestra, keep your chops up, learn the other instruments that are being played too. Like, while I'm a violinist, I play bass, cello, viola every single day in the school year, and I try to keep it up in the summer. This summer, though, I'm learning harp because I have a harpist in my classroom for the first
so
time.
Cool.
It's so much fun.
Wow.
I've been doing lessons. I think I've had 3 so far over the course of like 4 weeks, and I've missed 1 day of practice. I practice harp for at least an hour every single day, and it's
like one
so
of those
much fun.
It seems so much fun, and I'd love eventually, the opportunity to do that. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's wickedly difficult though. Like, I am doing one hand at a time, and it's so humbling to like I'm playing in like C major and quarter notes and half notes, and it's so slow. And so it really helps me also remember like where these kids are coming from. And I've been through their method book, 16 years in a row. And so for me, it gets old, and I want to push them through it because I get bored. And so it's a good reminder to, let them move at the pace they need to move at.
And good for you for taking that up and, practicing what you preach, and, making sure that you're knowing what you're teaching, with having a harp for the first year. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then last question would be, what advice do you have for future music educators?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to stumble, but then make sure you're keeping an open mindset, growth mindset, and learn from those failed experiences. You're going to have a lot of failures in the first couple of years. Like, things will go very wrong. But don't look at it as that you are a failure. You're learning. And reflect on everything that you do. And if something goes well, try to figure out why it goes well, because sometimes it's, a really happy accident. And those are wonderful, but you can't just be like, oh my gosh, my first concert was so good. It's because I'm an amazing teacher. It could just, it could be what you inherited. It could be that you have brilliant kids for whatever reason that one year, and the next year it's just going to be terrible. But lots of time reflecting, lots of time asking questions, ask people to come observe you, record yourself, and be okay revisiting things as well. Like, don't just because like they got their bow hand down in the first couple of weeks, don't be afraid to go back to that and revisit it all the time, every single year. It's good to do that sort of stuff. So I think those are my biggest things.
Well, I think you have great advice, and I've loved hearing from you about your experience and all the different things you were able to share with us. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. Thank you. And good luck with your upcoming school year.
Yeah. And good luck with your master's program.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just got done with mine last summer, and it felt so good to have it done.
That's amazing. Mine will be done in August, so I'm excited.
Yay! Yes. Good job.
Thank you so much. It was very nice to meet you.
You're welcome. Okay. Nice to meet you too. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.